Vancouver history. Vancouver is one of the most fascinating cities in Western Canada, located in the beautiful lower mainland of British Columbia. Today, it stands as the most populous city in the province, with more than 662,000 residents recorded in the 2021 Canadian census. But the influence of Vancouver extends far beyond its city limits. The surrounding Metro Vancouver region is home to about 2.6 million people, making it the third largest metropolitan area in Canada. When combined with the Fraser Valley, Greater Vancouver's population climbs over 3 million, creating one of the country's most dynamic regions. One of the remarkable things about Vancouver is its density. With more than 5,700 people per square kilometre, it holds the highest population density in Canada, and one of the highest in all of North America, ranking just behind New York City, San Francisco, and Mexico City. But Vancouver's history isn't just about numbers and growth, it's about culture and people. This city is known as one of the most ethnically and linguistically diverse places in Canada. Nearly half of Vancouver's residents are not native English speakers, and more than half identify as part of a visible minority group. This blend of cultures has shaped Vancouver into a truly global city, where languages, traditions, and communities intertwine. Vancouver has consistently been ranked among the most livable cities in the world, thanks to its natural beauty, urban planning, and cultural vibrancy. At the same time, it is also recognized as one of the most expensive places to live, a reality that reflects its desirability and unique challenges. The city's approach to development, often described as Vancouverism, has influenced urban planning across the globe, focusing on sustainable growth, mixed-use communities, and a close relationship between the urban core and natural landscapes. From its diverse population to its pioneering city design, Vancouver's history is more than just a story of growth. It's a story of how cultures, communities, and innovation come together to shape a city unlike any other. Vancouver history, early beginnings and growth. The history of Vancouver stretches back thousands of years, long before it became a modern city. Archaeological evidence shows that Indigenous peoples were living in the Vancouver area as far back as 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. Among them were the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, part of the Coast Salish group. They built vibrant villages in places we know today as Stanley Park, False Creek, Kitsilano, Point Grey, and the mouth of the Fraser River. Their deep cultural and spiritual connection to the land continues to shape the region's identity. Europeans first encountered this area in 1791, when Spanish explorer José María Narváez charted parts of Point Grey and Burrard Inlet. Some historians even argue that the English navigator Francis Drake may have sailed these waters as early as 1579. By 1808, Simon Fraser, the fur trader and explorer whose name the Fraser River bears, and his crew became the first known Europeans to set foot on the future site of Vancouver. The mid-19th century brought dramatic change. In 1858, the Fraser Gold Rush attracted more than 25,000 fortune seekers, mainly from California, who surged into nearby New Westminster on their way to the goldfields of the Fraser Canyon. At this time, Vancouver was still undeveloped land, but its transformation was about to begin. The first European settlement appeared in 1862 at McCleary's Farm, near the ancient Musqueam village in what is now Marpole. Just 1 year later, a sawmill opened at Moodyville, today's North Vancouver, marking the start of Vancouver's long and influential relationship with the logging industry. Soon after, Captain Edward Stamp established another mill on the south shore of Burrard Inlet. Although his first attempt at Brockton Point failed due to strong currents and reefs, he successfully relocated the mill in 1867 to what became known as Hastings Mill. This site would become the nucleus of the city. Around Hastings Mill, a lively settlement grew. In 1867, a colorful character named Gassy Jack Dayton opened a saloon nearby, attracting loggers, mill workers, and sailors. What began as a makeshift tavern quickly developed into a bustling community, which became known as Gastown, the heart of Vancouver's early growth. By 1870, the colonial government surveyed the settlement and officially named it Granville, in honor of Lord Granville, Britain's Secretary of State for the Colonies. Thanks to its natural deepwater harbor, Granville was eventually chosen in 1884 as the terminus for the Canadian Pacific Railway. This decision was a turning point. Cities like Port Moody, New Westminster, and even Victoria had hoped to become the railway's endpoint, but Vancouver's location won the day. The promise of the railway was also one of the main reasons British Columbia joined the Canadian Confederation in 1871. However, construction faced delays due to political scandals and debates over using Chinese labor. By the 1880s, the railway was finally completed, and Vancouver's destiny as a major Canadian city was sealed. Vancouver history, incorporation and the Great Fire. Vancouver officially became a city on April 6, 1886, the very same year that the first transcontinental train arrived on Canada's west coast. The Canadian Pacific Railway played a crucial role in the city's creation. CPR President William Van Horn, acting on the recommendation of surveyor Henry John Canby, chose the site for the railway's western terminus. He also gave the new city its name, Vancouver, in honor of the British explorer George Vancouver, who had charted the Pacific Northwest nearly a century earlier. But Vancouver's early days were not without disaster. Only 2 months after incorporation, on June 13, 1886, a devastating blaze known as the Great Vancouver Fire swept through the young settlement. In a matter of hours, nearly the entire city was reduced to ashes. Despite this tragedy, Vancouver wasted no time in rebuilding. That same year, the Vancouver Fire Department was established, and reconstruction began almost immediately. The population surged with incredible speed. From just 1,000 residents in 1881, Vancouver grew to more than 20,000 by the turn of the century, and over 100,000 by 1911. This rapid growth was fueled not only by the railway but also by Vancouver's role as a hub for commerce and opportunity. During the Klondike Gold Rush of 1898, Vancouver merchants outfitted thousands of prospectors heading north to the Yukon. Among them was Charles Woodward, who had opened the first Woodward store in 1892. Alongside other major retailers like Spencer's and the Hudson's Bay Company, Woodward's helped shape Vancouver's retail industry for decades. In these early years, the city's economy was dominated by powerful institutions like the Canadian Pacific Railway. The CPR wasn't just running trains, it owned large amounts of land, developed housing, and spurred nearly every aspect of the city's economic activity. At the same time, local manufacturing began to take root, including the founding of the British Columbia Sugar Refinery by Benjamin Tingley Rogers in 1890. Still, Vancouver's true economic foundation lay in its natural resources and access to the sea. Logging, which had begun with the first sawmills on Burrard Inlet, continued to thrive, while the port grew into the beating heart of the city's economy. By the 1930s, commercial shipping and trade flowing through Vancouver's harbour had become the city's largest economic sector, a role the port still plays today. Vancouver history, the 20th century. As Vancouver entered the 20th century, the city's rapid economic growth was accompanied by growing social struggles. Big business, led by powerful corporations like the Canadian Pacific Railway, dominated the economy, but workers began to push back. The first major sympathy strike came in 1903, when railway workers walked off the job demanding union recognition. The conflict turned deadly when Labour leader Frank Rogers was killed by CPR police while picketing on the docks, becoming the first martyr of British Columbia's labour movement. Labour unrest grew across the province, culminating in Canada's first general strike in 1918 at the Cumberland coal mines on Vancouver Island. After a brief lull in the 1920s, tensions exploded again in 1935, when unemployed men from military-run relief camps flooded into Vancouver, demanding better conditions. After months of daily protests, the workers launched the On to Ottawa Trek, hoping to take their fight directly to the federal government. But the movement was crushed by force, and many of the protesters were arrested and sent back to work camps for the remainder of the Great Depression. While labor struggles defined much of Vancouver's social climate, other powerful movements also shaped the city. Feminism, temperance, and moral reform gained momentum in the early 20th century. In 1918, Vancouver suffragist and prohibitionist Mary Ellen Smith made history as the first woman elected to a provincial legislature in Canada. Prohibition began during the First World War and lasted until 1921, when the provincial government took control of alcohol sales, a system that still exists today. Yet Vancouver also became a flashpoint for racial tension. In 1907, riots led by the Asiatic Exclusion League tore through Chinatown and Japantown, leaving behind destruction and fear. When future Prime Minister William Leon Mackenzie King was sent to investigate damage claims, his findings led to Canada's first anti-drug law, a ban on non-medicinal opium. This legislation was fueled by racialized fears and moral panic. Those prejudices deepened during World War II. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, thousands of Japanese Canadians living in Vancouver and across British Columbia were forcibly removed from their homes, interned, or deported. Their neighborhoods, like the once thriving Japantown, never recovered, as entire communities were dismantled and prevented from returning even after the war. Despite these struggles, Vancouver continued to grow. On January 1, 1929, the city formally amalgamated with Point Grey and South Vancouver, creating the boundaries we recognize today. By then, Vancouver had become the third largest metropolis in Canada, a status it has retained into the modern era. The 20th century was a time of triumph, tragedy, and transformation for Vancouver. It was a century that shaped the city's identity, not just as a hub of commerce and growth, but as a place where struggles for equality, justice, and belonging played out in powerful and lasting ways. If you enjoyed this journey through Vancouver history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to History Love for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. Let us know in the comments which part of Vancouver's past surprised you the most, and what city you'd like us to explore next.